Hi, this is Keith with How to Build Your Own Home, and I want to talk about how to build during an inflationary year. There's a lot of talk out there about inflation, it's going to get real bad, stuff like that. And I don't think a lot of that is fear-mongering. I think some of it's clickbait, but I want to just give you some heads up that if you are building in 2022 or even 2023, we are in an inflationary era, and how do you deal with that? How do you build a home with all that happening? Well, I want to give you an analogy. I used to work in the high-end restaurant industry in Los Angeles, California, while going to college. And there's one thing you have to take out of the oven and eat right away, or it just goes kaput, and that's called a souffle. And so if you go out to dinner in a restaurant and you get a plate, and that plate is cold and it's supposed to have a nice hot dish on there, that means somebody didn't care and they let the dish sit out there for a long time. It gets to you and it's not any good. That's what it's like today in building. And how does that relate? It relates to your budget. So I'm dealing with a lot of owner builders answering questions, and they think that if they have their budget now, it will be ready in September when they start to build. No, that budget's toast. That budget doesn't even apply 6 months later, 3 months later, oftentimes even 45 days later. I'm seeing bids for framing, bids for stucco, bids for all kinds of stuff. And these are bids from across the country that are good for 7 days. 7 days. So what does that mean when you're trying to budget, when you're trying to build a home and you set a budget, but everything's going skew-wampus like that while you're building? Well, you got to get prepared for that. And the big areas are the big ones. Framing is your biggest area. As soon as you get that budget for framing and you're ready to build, you should be ready to build literally or start to framing within 2 to 3 to 4 weeks minimum before that budget goes nuts on you. So when you get your budget and it's finalized, you need to either be prepared to, I can't build right now, it's too much, or I need to break ground immediately as soon as you possibly can. The other thing is, just before you start to break ground, if there's a couple of bids that came to you and they're 3 weeks old or a month and a half old, call to ask for a refresh of that bid. Is it still good? And they'll give you another 45 days or a month and a half on that bid. So be on top of that, especially with your bigger ticket items that are at least over $5,000 for a ticket item. Could be concrete framing, windows, the works. Just make sure you look at those items and see, could they have gone out of budget? Is it toast by now? Has the souffle come to your table and has it deflated and it's no good at that time? Keep that in mind. This is the best advice for 2022, is make sure that when you break ground, your budget is fresh. It's up to date at that moment and you're ready to go. This is Keith with How to Build Your Own Home.